Have you been feeling underpowered, like you can't compete with our Titan brethren? Like every piece of solo ops or pinnacle content is a drag? If the answer to any of that is yes, well, I've got a bit of a secret to share. But first, you're gonna have to promise me something, okay? Like this is a give and take relationship we got going on. If this video changes your mind, if this video inspires something within you, if I change your life over the course of this video. Okay, wait, that might be too much. But if any of that happens, you gotta like the video. Maybe even leave a little comment down there, maybe even hit that subscribe button. Come on, I know you wanna. I could even go into that whole thing about like, oh, 93% of you guys aren't subscribed, but I won't. But anyway, g'day guys. I got something special for you. This is, without a doubt, the strongest and best feeling Warlock build this season. I've spent the last few weeks doing my research, doing my calculations, and I've figured it out. Let's just jump straight into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the exotic. Usually I feel like the exotic is the make or break for any build, right? Like they enable so many things or add something that we can build around. But our pick here doesn't really enable anything special. The exotic that I'm talking about is Mantle of Battle Harmony. Why specifically this piece, and what does it actually do for us? First off, let's break down its exotic perk, Absorption Cells, and what it actually does. It states that final blows with a weapon matching our super give us extra super energy. And while our super is charged, each final blow gives us a 4x surge for that element. The actual super energy gains are pretty strange, so I think it's better to break down like the general way that it works rather than every specific interaction. So based on the type of enemy defeated, Mantle gives us between 1.5 to 2.5% of our super, and that's strictly talking about red bars. See, higher tiers of enemies will give us more super energy, so a red bar knight or a captain will give us more energy than a red bar thrall or a shank. Like it's pretty intuitive. The more effort required to take down an enemy, the more super energy you get. Now 1 to 2% sounds pretty weak, like those are pretty low numbers, but it stacks up so quickly that after around sort of 30 final blows, you're looking at an almost fully free super just from Mantle. Now keep in mind that I said 30 final blows. If you're doing the math, that doesn't really make sense, but keep it in mind, we'll be coming back to it soon. With the rest of this build in solo activities, I can reliably have a super almost every minute, sometimes a little bit longer. The other portion of Mantle of Battle Harmony is the 4x surge when our super is full. A 4x surge is equal to 25% bonus damage, and it can only be achieved through exotic armor perks. The other way to get surges normally is through leg mods and armor charges, with a maximum of 3. Having an easy to access 4x surge is one of like the best things possible, because it frees up our leg armor slots for a few things, and it's incredibly easy to access and maintain. And because you're almost always running with a full super, every solo weapon just has a free 25% bonus damage that stacks with things like Radiance. Speaking of our mod slots, let's move on to talking about our armor stats. Now this is probably the most important part of the build. Armor 3.0 has been relatively hit or miss for a lot of people. Personally, I love it. I think being able to focus on a handful of specific stats really opens up build crafting. But anyway, our two primary stats that we want at least 100 on are super and weapons. At 100, super gives us 190% super gains from all sources, and this includes the Mantle of Battle Harmony. So instead of weak red bar enemies giving us 1.5 times super, we actually get almost 3%. And now that's where our average 30 final blow super comes in. As we gradually push towards 200 super, it pushes our bonus PvE super damage towards a massive plus 45%. Now moving on to weapons, like the weapon stat, sorry. At 100, we get 10% bonus reload and handling, as well as 15% bonus damage to red and yellow bar enemies. Towards 200, we get up to 15% bonus primary and special damage to bosses, reduced to 10% for heavy weapons. It also gives us extra ammo in bricks, up to, I believe, 100% chance for larger ammo bricks at 200. Now, the reason why we want to get this as high as possible is pretty simple. We get better handling weapons and more damage against everyone, right? With Armor 3.0 as well, we got some replacement armor charge mods, one for each stat. This is where one of the biggest synergies comes into play. Usually the mod we want to put on our boots is a surge, right? But we can have an almost infinite source of 4x surge, which opens our boot mod slots up to run the new weapons font mods. Specifically, we're going to be running 2 of them. So whenever we have armor charge, we get a plus 50 to our weapon stat, which means even more ammo and even more boss damage, all because we're running Mantle of Battle Harmony. Now's the time I should also bring up the super font mods, which are located on your helmet. We have a few choices here. We could either run 1 super font for plus 30 super, or we could run 2 for plus 50. On activities with Famine, where you start with no special ammo or heavy ammo, I tend to lean towards running one super font and one special or heavy ammo finder. Of course, my final mod slot goes towards Harmonic Siphon to get us orbs on solo weapon final blows, but in activities where you're craving a bit more ammo, I think it's fair to drop 20 super stat for better generation. In terms of our other armor mods, they're pretty standard, so we'll blitz through them pretty quickly. I covered helmet mods already, so on our arms I'm using Harmonic Loader for some extra reload speed, Heavy Handed for orbs on melee final blows, and Impact Induction for extra grenade cooldown. On the chest piece, run whatever damage reduction mods you need, like I'm using Concussive and Void here, but I'm also using a Harmonic Ammo Generation mod for that little extra boost. Now boots, I'm using Double Weapons Font and Enhanced Athletics, which is just a mobility boost. It's kind of like Traction, if you remember that. You can use any of the on-orb pickup mods, or even like Harmonic Holster if you want. On my Bond, probably the most important, we've got Reaper for orbs after using Phoenix Dive, Powerful Attraction for auto pickup, and Time Dilation to keep my fonts up for longer. Alright, with armor sorted, let's talk about the actual build. Of course, I'm running solo. You could reliably run either Well of Radiance or Song of Flame, depending on what you need most. I tend to lean towards Song of Flame for solo activities. Becoming basically invincible and having room clearing abilities on a dime feels really nice, but Well of Radiance can also be suitable for harder or group content. Phoenix Dive, of course, for the quick burst of healing as opposed to the longer and stationary riffs. Incinerator Snap, because it's almost always the better melee option. And finally, Healing Grenade. Healing Grenade, when paired with our fragments, gives us a permanent regeneration buff as long as we're chaining final blows, which I think infinitely outclasses something like fusion or solar grenades in harder solo or even group content. For aspects, Touch of Flame and Hellion are our two pretty obvious options. Heat Rises definitely works in place of Touch of Flame, but the Restoration ×2 buff from Healing Grenade is like too good to pass up. Hellion, I never get it right, is an obvious choice due to its synergy with Scorch and Ignition builds, and of course with Phoenix Dive. Pretty much don't need to worry about unstoppable champions with Incinerator Snap and Hellion in the pocket, because it's just so easy to get Ignitions. Moving on to our fragments, this is where the build really shines. We're running Empyrean, where solar final blows extend our timers on Radiant and Restoration, Solace, which increases our maximum timers on Radiant and Restoration, Ashes, which increases our Scorch stacks across the board, which synergizes with Hellion, Incinerator Snap, and our solar weapons. And finally, Singeing, where our Phoenix Dive regens faster when we apply Scorch stacks on enemies. I want to take a second to point out that I'm only using 28 class ability stat on this build right now, but with Ember of Singeing, I will always have Hellion active. Right as it's about to run out, I will always have another Phoenix Dive ready to activate it again. Now, with the armor and class builds set, we can talk about the really exciting part. Weapons. This season we have so many amazing options. I just made 2 videos talking about some of the best solo weapon options right now. Both of those will be in the description just below. But anyway, let's start with our energy slot, because that's what we're mainly going to be relying on. Phoneutria Fera, the spread shot hand cannon, is an amazing ad clear and yellow bar melter. My version has Incandescent, of course, to spread Scorch stacks on final blows. We also have the new solar SMG Yeartide Apex from Solstice, which is genuinely one of the best weapons we've ever gotten. I alternate between versions with Feeding Frenzy and Demo in the first column, with Incandescent or Burning Ambition in the second column. Burning Ambition is a super strong perk for harder content, where sustained damage will build Scorch stacks on enemies, leading to like overall more ignition damage on bosses and champions. Now the issue with both of these weapons is that they're limited. You actually can't get them anymore. But that's okay, we've got a ton of other options here I want to touch on before we move to our other slots. First up, Ahab Char, the new Kepler auto rifle. It's a rapid fire frame, which means that it's basically an SMG, and it's also got the Braytech Werewolf model, which comes with the Bray Legacy Origin trait for bonus ability regen, and it also rolls with both Heel Clip and Burning Ambition, making it a solid, slightly longer range option to add to our arsenal. Next up, we've got Tommy's Matchbook, the exotic auto rifle. This thing is an ignition machine, pumping out tons of damage and Scorch stacks at the cost of losing health, which is entirely negated by this build. If you're struggling with content, this thing is the way to go 100%. It's insane at the moment. Now our last 2 options are both sidearms. First up, we've got Returned Memory, the Crucible Rocket sidearm, which rolls with all of the best rocket sidearm perks. We've got Impulse Amplifier, Lead from Gold, Incandescent, and Burning Ambition. If you're absolutely rolling in special ammo, which you kind of should be with this build, it can definitely be a main hand weapon option. Our second sidearm, Devil's Ruin, Of course, it just got a huge buff where picking up a fire sprite will let you use the charge mode, which now acts as like a mini 1k voices, where it ignites targets that it hits, and it also gets the bonus damage from being an exotic. It really is like worth the hype at the moment. It's super fun. Now let's move on to heavy weapons. A lot of this is personal preference or like based on the activity you're running. If you need boss DPS in like a raid or dungeon setting, use kind of whatever you want. But for solo ops and pinnacle content, my top choices are the returning solo grenade launcher, Outrageous Fortune, which rolls pretty much everything you could ever really want. In-can, field prep, impulse amplifier, burning ambition, bait and switch, explosive light, etc. Right? It's a really nice pocket tool for quick bursts of damage. Next up, we've got Finality's Augur, which I don't have yet, but I know is pretty good. Finality's Augur is an exotic linear fusion rifle from the Sundered Doctrine dungeon. It has the high single target DPS from being a linear fusion, with the room clearing capabilities from the turret mode. It's a very solid option if you have it. After that, Dragon's Breath. Exotic rocket launcher. It stacks high damage on single targets, it spams ignitions, it clears rooms, right? It's a great little option. And the same goes for Eyes of Tomorrow, which is still like such a sleeper pick. It's basically infinite ammo, it has huge ad clear potential, and it nukes rooms on like the hardest difficulties. I always have a soft spot in my heart for Eyes of Tomorrow. I think if I can pair it with any build, I will like try to use it at least a little bit, just because it is so fun. But finally, you could go with any solar machine gun, like the returning Trials Adaptive Unwavering Duty, which can roll with everything you want, like Killing Tally, Burning Ambition, Subsistence, In-Can, Fourth Times, Onslaught, right? The list goes on. Now, of course, we haven't talked about our kinetic slot yet. Now this is entirely personal preference. If you want champion coverage, run that. If you want to use Tenacious, run that. A fusion rifle for extra damage, run that. Right? It's our pocket, we can stuff it with whatever we want. Now the last thing I want to discuss is the artifact, because it encourages us leaning into solo, and it also has the added benefit of being an infinite source of like free Radiant. The important perks that you should be running with this build are Fever and Chill in the third column for Radiant on rapid solar precision hits, Refresh Threads in the third for extra ability energy on Fire Sprite pickup, Cauterized Darkness in the fourth for bonus solar damage on Stasis or Strand debuffed enemies. This one also encourages us to use something like Chill Clip or Slice on our kinetic weapon, so do keep that in mind. If you don't want to use those darkness debuffs, I would pick Elemental Daze for ignitions on champion stuns with solar weapons, Elemental Coalescence in the fourth column for extra Fire Sprite creations. Now this is especially important if you're running Devil's Ruin. Finally, in the fifth column, we have Radiant Shrapnel and Elemental Overdrive. Radiant Shrapnel is arguably the most important artifact perk to be running, where hitting enemies while radiant or killing a scorched enemy will create these little explosive projectiles that scorch nearby enemies. This thing is insane. It stacks with like all of our Scorch synergy, and these little shots are basically like the empowered solar grenade lava blobs. Elemental Overdrive is more Fire Sprite synergy, where they'll give a small little damage boost to solo weapons on pickup for a while. You also could run Shield Crush here for some of that extra healing grenade recovery speed, but that is up to you. Now overall, we've got a high damage, high survivability, high super regeneration build here, all on our favorite class, Warlock. If you've been feeling like Warlock is struggling, or maybe you've been grinding Titan because it feels more fun, I implore you to try out this build. It's super easy to go grind for, because all you need are a few pieces of armor and Mantle of Battle Harmony. Like that's it, really. Maybe you know a Warlock player, maybe you know a few Warlock players that have been complaining or just struggling to find a build that feels good. Send this video to them. Maybe they'll finally start pulling their weight more than just being an on-demand well machine. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I always take the time to read and reply to them, and as always, if you made it to the end of the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.